Today's episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast is brought to you by Poor Richard's Cafe and Star Local Media. Poor Richard's Cafe, Plano's oldest restaurant since 1973. They are open daily from 5:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., serving the three most important meals of the day: breakfast, lunch, and dessert. It is true Texas home-style cooking made with love and grit. That is Poor Richard's Cafe, located off of Avenue K in Plano. Welcome to another episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Welch, sports editor at Star Local Media. I'm being joined by Kendrick Johnson and Justin Thomas. Let's continue talking soccer, fellas. We touched on the girls on Monday. Let's talk about some of the happenings in boys soccer on Thursday. As we got 1 week left in the regular season. Most of our teams are on spring break, not playing any games this week. So let's, we finally got a nice period to where these teams can breathe after it's been a taxing season at this point. So let's break down the happenings in our boys districts, talk a bit about what is at stake heading into the final week of the regular season. And for the girls podcast, Justin, we started in 6-6A. Let's pivot to 9-6A to begin this one, Kendrick, in a district that, first off, thanks to head coach Alan Pocock out of McKinney with the assist on these standings. You have in first place right now is Alan. Alan on pace. Alan will have district titles in both boys and girls soccer.
Maybe Boyd.
Gotta look back, because that might be the first time that's ever happened. But nevertheless,
I think so, because they made a big deal. They were very emotional. You know the team better than me, but they're very emotional about beating Boyd, because they've been like I put in my story, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Boyd's been the man, and they beat the man 2-0. So it was very emotional for them to sweep Boyd and get that crown. I won't say it's more important than the crown, but that let them know we're for real, and they got the confidence to make a long run. So I was very impressed with Alan.
Oh yeah, I mean, Alan boys soccer's been making statements all season long. They got 30 points. That is 6 clear of second place. So they can still technically split the district title with Prosper if Alan loses out and Prosper wins out. And then if that case happens, Prosper would technically be the one seed because of head-to-head. But Alan is at the very least guaranteed a share of the district title. And I mean, statistically, they check out so far, plus 14 goal differential.
They passed the eye test.
Best one. Yeah. I mean, so you've actually seen them. So we were just talking earlier, Justin, we're kind of in a phase where, because of how long basketball coverage went for, we're still trying to kind of now play catch up as far as getting to see these teams play.
I've only seen one boys game and one girls game.
I've actually seen everybody in the top 5 except for Plano, because Boyd and McKinney both have good teams. But Allen reminds me of Boyd last year. They're really big and physical. They're quick. They're not as good as last year's Boyd team. That's one of the best teams I've ever seen in my life. But they know what they do, and their young guys are playing above. I don't know if they play above their heads, but they got some really young guys that can go. And then you got mixed up with those hungry seniors who, for them to have been a successful program, they run around like they never won before. So you want that in your team. Oh yeah, and they're definitely on a mission. That team's on a mission. Prosper is a team. I don't like using the word overachieving, but I
don't think Prosper overachieves anymore. I think they're just awesome at everything. We can put that narrative to rest.
They legitly, but if you see them play, they're not as big as the other teams are in soccer, but they're super fast. Okay. And they can counter you like that. They beat Boyd on a counterattack for goal, and the kid scored, and then Boyd ended up beating them back in Prosper. But their team I do not want to see in the playoffs. If you want these 10-6-8 teams, you're going to have a problem with the Prosper Eagles.
Just to kind of outline the rest of the district beyond Allen. So you have Allen in first place with 30 points, Prosper second place 24, McKinney third place with 23, Plano Senior fourth place with 20, McKinney Boyd 1 point behind Plano. They're in fifth place with 19. And then I guess Plano West is still technically alive for a playoff spot as well.
Boyd's the key, because they play Plano and McKinney, who are ahead of them. They control their own destiny.
Actually, now that I look at it, I'm not sure, because I think Plano might have swept West this season, and they're 6 points back of each other. So West might actually technically be out now that I look at it again. West is nevertheless in sixth place with 14 points. Plano East and Jesuit bringing up the rear with 3 points apiece. But then you have, I think at the start of the season, we kind of saw Allen as just kind of on that playoff bubble, and just the strides that they've taken this season were, at least, caught me by surprise. Internally, they might have expected a run like this. They've pitched 10 shutouts. Just the depth that they have on defense has been one of the real big contributors to them this season. I know who would you recall who was in goal for Allen against Boyd?
I don't know.
Because they've been having the role with a sophomore, Jackson Levitt, who was began the season as a backup backup, and then their starters got hurt, and he's been kind of thrust into a big
back
role.
line is very stout. Their back line is like, it's one of those things like they don't look like they're doing anything until they put a zero on you. Their back line is very good. Everybody communicates, and they're very efficient in what they do. But the domino that's going to fall is it goes back to the man, McKinney Boyd. They're having a down year for their standards. I think they've lost as many games this year they have the last 3 combined. And I'm not exaggerating.
No, that was a special run that the Broncos were in the midst of these past few years.
But with all that, all they have to do is win their next 2. The 2 teams ahead of them are Plano and McKinney, and they both see them next week. So for them to be in not what's the word I'm trying to look for? For them not to be in a probable position, a favorable position, that's it. They still are where you want to be at. If you know it's going to last week, you win 2 games, you get in the playoffs, that's all you can ask for. And Coach Kobe Peak has them focused. He actually likes the fact that they have a break because they have to, as he said, they get to rebuild their mentally and physically because they got 2 big games coming up. Basically, the playoffs start for Boyd next Tuesday.
I mean, you could even go so far as to say that the winner of that game between Prosper and Boyd on Tuesday, that team could very well be the team that gets that 4th seed.
They play Plano.
Plano and Boyd. Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, you look at the the Wildcats. They've actually been one of the better teams in this district over the second half of district play. 3-1. Since the turn. And ironically enough, I saw them in their only loss when they got when they got beat by McKinney 3-2. A weird game. That was a weird game. McKinney scores a goal 9 seconds in to the first half and scores a game. I want to say 40 to 50 seconds into the second half.
Wow.
Just Plano really came out sluggish to begin each half. Pretty evenly played match. From that point forward, though. But yeah, it's just weird to see a team. I think that's the fastest goal I've ever seen scored to begin a match. But that result was kind of an outlier. Plano beat Allen, to start the second half. So yes, they do have.
I know Boyd beat them, and Boyd beats them. That'll be big because they'll have to head-to-head on Plano.
With Plano, you look at, their past 5 goals have all been scored by different players. Specifically Jack Bender's having a strong offensive campaign for the Wildcats, and so they still technically have an outside shot at second place. But if they can get a win over Boyd specifically on Tuesday, because after that they have Boyd Tuesday, then Prosper on Friday. So they have an outside shot at maybe getting second.
To me, because we both covered a 9-6A, this is shaping up like girls volleyball. I guess the only volleyball. But whoever gets in the playoffs could easily have all 4 of these teams in regionals like they did in volleyball easily. Right. Would you be surprised if all 4 teams end up seeing each other in regional, or 3 out of 4? Yeah,
3 out of 4. I know that. I think Saxe and Rowlett are having pretty strong campaigns over in 10-6A. But this district always. This district always produces strong soccer programs, and no surprise.
It's gonna be a really good team sitting at the house watching like us.
And you just look at, the way that I know obviously they don't plan for this in advance, but the way that the district schedule is just backloaded with all these key matchups, you have 5, so Tuesday and Friday, next week. On Tuesday you have Allen and Prosper, top 2 teams in the district playing each other. Same night you have Boyd and Plano, 4th and 5th, 1 point separates them in the standings. And then on Friday you have Allen and Plano West, Boyd versus McKinney, Plano versus Prosper. So matchups, that are just chock full of significance relative to the playoff picture. Let's see, and that's a look at some of the happenings over in 9-6A. Justin, whereas over on the girls' side in 6-6A, everything was all cut and dry. Yeah. No question who the 4 playoff teams are going to be. Not exactly the case with the boys.
No, not at all. Only 2 teams know that they're going to be like the Lakers and not in the playoffs. That's MacArthur and Nimitz. Sorry, I had to.
It's right there. So.
Yeah. MacArthur and Nimitz are out. Other than that, everybody's still alive. Coppell's in first, tied with Flower Mound. Both of them are 8-3-1 with 25 points. Marcus is third, 23 points, and then you have Hebron in 4th with 17 points. Lewisville in 5th with 16, and Irving in 6th at 12. A lot of work for Irving to do, but they could technically still get in the playoffs if they were to win out when they have 2 winnable games. Nimitz, who's 8th, and then they'll play Hebron, who they already beat earlier in the season. So if they're able to win out and somehow Hebron and Lewisville would play to a draw, then MacArthur or Irving would actually have the same amount of points as Hebron and would get in on that tiebreaker, I think, by winning both of them.
How good is that? Have you seen Irving play?
Nope. The only 2 teams here I've actually seen play are Coppell and Flower.
State semifinalists.
No, I asked them because they got in 4th last year and they beat 3 or 4 of the top 10 teams in the state to get there, because they beat Boyd and whoever was ranked number 2. And then they have to win like 2 state games just to get the regionals. Like, so that they're a team that you don't want to see in the playoffs. They're tough out.
Yeah, but they're gonna have a tough time getting there. Like I said, they have to win out and have Lewisville and Hebron play to a draw. So if either Lewisville or Hebron wins, then they'll have enough points to eliminate Irving. Also interesting at the top here, so you have Coppell and Flower Mound tied for first, and they play on Tuesday. Ooh. So it could be for the district championship unless they play to a draw, and then if that happens and Marcus wins out, which is very possible against 2 teams that currently aren't in the playoffs, MacArthur and Lewisville, that would make it for a 3-way tie at the top, assuming that Coppell and Flower Mound take care of the Irving schools in their last games. So,
how do you think it's going to go?
I don't know. I mean, it was a really good game. I actually saw that game, the first game. It was a really good game. Coppell took it. At that point of the season, Coppell was in 5th place. They looked to be kind of on life support. They needed to win that game against Flower Mound, and they did. And now they just got on a roll, and now the 2 teams are tied for first. Flower Mound started off like with a fury. Then they lost 3 in a row, and now they're right back at the top. So then it comes down to that final playoff spot. Looks like it's going to be between Hebron and Lewisville, 4th and 5th. And like I said, they're going to play on Tuesday. And then Hebron also has Irving. Lewisville has Marcus. So looks like it's going to come down to whoever wins that game, unless they tie and then Irving somehow sneaks in there. So
could have a configuration though where it's the same 4 teams on the girls' side, same 4 teams on the boys' side that make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 Lewisville schools and Coppell minus the Farmers.
Yeah, I mean Coppell, what an impact they've made on the soccer district in both boys and girls.
I guess you could talk about the regional rankings too. Coppell's 2nd, Marcus is 3rd, and Flower Mound is 7th. So teams getting respects in the polls as well.
They're Region 1, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they got the West Texas.
Allen and Plano ISD are free from that mess.
If it weren't for potential draws, we could settle this district pretty quickly here, but ties could still create some chaos potential.
Oh yeah, I mean a potential 3-way tie for first place, especially.
Yeah.
Do you recall off the top like what at least in previous years, what the tiebreaker has been? Is it point differential? Is it head to head?
I thought it was head to head if it's just 2 teams, but if it's more than 2 teams, then it gets to the goal differentials and stuff.
Interesting. Yeah. Plenty at stake heading into that final week in 6-6A, as well as 9-6A. Obviously, still got some other districts to talk about, including the happenings over in Garland ISD, Mesquite ISD, plus all of our 5A programs. We will get to that after a word from the sponsor. Today's podcast is brought to you by Star Local Media. 14 newspapers and websites with a print distribution of 270,000 homes and monthly page views of 600,000 online. Star Local Media, your community voice for news. And now, let's get back to the podcast. And welcome back to the second part of the boys soccer podcast. Earlier this week, we wrapped up the girls discussion, and then Matt and Justin and Kendrick Johnson, they just wrapped up 6-6A, 9-6A boys talk. And now, Taylor Ragland, Brian Murphy, Devin Hassan, we're here to talk 10-6A, 11-6A, and we have a lot of 5A action to discuss on the pitch as well. Since they just wrapped up a bunch of 6A discussion, let's stick with that once again. 10-6A, 11-6A. How are the Mesquites and the Saxies of the world? And Rowlett, I hear Rowlett has dethroned Saxie in boys soccer. Is that correct?
They have. They're their first outright district title since 2006, and they earned it. I mean, they went out there week in, week out. Last year, they had a very young team that struggled to make the playoffs. They got in as 4th seed by winning basically 4 of their last 5 matches. But playing those younger guys last year has really paid off. They have one of the best players in the state in Kevin Adolfo. He's got more than 30 goals this season. Wow. He was the district MVP last season. Carson Prestridge, who actually played defender last year, made the move up to striker. He's got more than 20 goals. So they've done it every step of the way. Again, no letdowns, and with 36 points, they are going to be your district champions. Again, this district only has 1 more match. So they've secured it. Saxie is going to be the 2nd seed. Saxie, the 2-time reigning defending champions, no more. But a very solid group. I mean, kind of a committee approach. It's a different guy that kind of steps up offensively every match. And then defensively, they're just stout. So again, they match up with 9-6A in the first round. It's always a tough chore, whether you're the 1 seed or the 4 seed. But I think both Saxie and Rowlett have the ability to do some damage in the playoffs.
As a Saxie alum, we were always known for boys soccer.
And it's kind of weird to see that Rowlett is now the district champion. We did not like Rowlett soccer, at least, while I was there.
And I think while you were there, Saxe was nationally ranked, and then they fell off for a while. They didn't even make the playoffs for a couple of years. Whereas Rowlett has been kind of that model of consistency in Garland ISD. They've made the playoffs every year since 2003. But, you know, again, these are two teams that test themselves well in non-district. And then this district, I think, is a little bit better than some people give it credit for when it comes to soccer. I mean, it's not 9-6A. But what district is? No, but that's not to say
those Garland schools can play. North Garland, and so they may not be as good at some of the sports like football and basketball and softball and stuff. But when it comes to soccer, those Garland, the GISD schools, they can play. Yeah,
and you've seen that. Saxe made a regional final a couple of years ago before falling in a tight game against Jesuit, who went on to win the state championship. Rowlett's made some lengthy playoff runs. So again, it's a lot of people are going to point to 9-6A and say, okay, those are going to be the four teams that meet up in the third round of the playoffs. But I don't think that's a guarantee. I would be surprised if this district gets swept in the first round.
Interesting. So Rowlett, they have the best chance of making the deepest run?
Yeah, I think so. I think they have the firepower to score with anybody, and their defense is good. It's not great. It's not one of those where, hey, we've only allowed 3 goals all season. But when you have that Kevin Adolfo and Carson Prestridge and those guys who can score, that's going to give them a shot to win any game.
Now, before we dip into the Mesquite schools, I want to find out Lake Dallas. How have they been so good this year in boys soccer?
Well, I mean, when we do our predictions and stuff, I think everybody but me had the Colony first. I think Lake Dallas won the district and the Colony second. And it was always going to come down to kind of those two programs. And I think Lake Dallas has just overwhelmed everybody with the returners that they've brought back. I mean, they had the best year they've ever had last season, winning 1 round. I mean, advancing to the area round was the best year they'd ever had, beating Lone Star. And then almost, they were within a minute or so, a couple seconds of upsetting Lovejoy, and lost in overtime after a literal last minute goal to tie it against them. So a really good season last year. They graduated the district MVP, but they brought back, Julian Fernandez, Brock Pope, Jaden Hendricks on defense, Carlos Zamora, Orlando Castro. It's just name after name after name after name of guys that were on the team last year were huge contributors, especially guys like Brock Pope. They have Caleb Irving back in the net from last year, and everybody. The scary part, I guess, if you have to share the district with them again next year, is that most of these guys are juniors. They're going to lose a couple. They're going to lose Carlos Zamora, a couple guys, but they're bringing back, just as many, and they have sophomores. Anthony Patty is contributing, so it's really just an experience thing. I think it's losing Prosper obviously helps when Prosper goes to 6A and you get to be in a district without that kind of dominant force. The Colony, obviously, they're not down, but they're not quite that dominant. The way that Prosper was. Lake Dallas and the Colony, I believe, drew 1-1 the first time they played. Lake Dallas got the best of them in the second round. Which helped them clinch, the district championship. I don't think they've lost a game in district. I think they have the 1 draw with the Colony, and they've pretty much just run through everybody else, and it really hasn't been much resistance at all. So, I think they're just continuing to build on what they started last season.
All right, and that now leads us to the mammoth district that is 9-5A boys soccer. 2 games left, finally, rounding out the 18-game season. And as you can expect, the 2-time defending state champion, Wakeland Wolverines, they are in first place with 39 points. They are on an absolute tear, but it gets a little tricky after that. You have 3 teams in Frisco, Heritage, Lone Star, and Centennial. 4 teams, I should say, all within 4 points of each other.
Oh, wow.
So Heritage, a much improved Heritage team, by the way, they're at 36 points. Frisco, a very much improved Frisco team, they're at 35 points. Lone Star, a team that has made the playoffs the last couple seasons, they're at 33 points. And Centennial, your alma mater, and last year's district champion, if the playoffs started today, they would not be in at 32 points. But I kind of crunched some numbers here. I looked at the next 2 opponents for all of these teams. Centennial faces Liberty and Independence. Those 2 are at the bottom of the barrel, 7 points each. Should win those games. Must win. Should win those games. Lone Star right above them. They play Liberty and Lebanon Trail. Also Lebanon Trail, another team at the bottom of the barrel. They should win those games. But then you look at Frisco. They play Independence as well at the bottom of the barrel, but then they play Reedy, a team that's mathematically out of the equation at 21 points, but still not a lock there. So then it leads me to Heritage, and this is where Centennial could possibly get in because they play Memorial. They're at the very bottom with 4 points, but then Heritage has to play Wakeland in the season finale, and that will be a doozy right there. If Heritage loses that game, Centennial takes care of business. That would leave them tied in points. I don't know how they would figure that out, but then that would give Centennial a chance to clinch a playoff berth. Wakeland, I believe, if they beat Reedy, they clinch a playoff berth, and then obviously they play Heritage in that season finale. It's
You'd think you'd be able to figure stuff out in 16 games, but no. It turns out you need number 17 and 18
You
also,
need all 18 games to figure this one out. It is literally a team death match in 9-5A boys soccer. Obviously, last year Wakeland won it all as the 4 seed out of that district. We were just talking before the podcast how they demolished Prosper in that first round. It was kind of bizarre, really, but Wakeland, once the playoffs hit, they really turned it on, but it seems like they're already in full playoff championship mode. You know, any one of these teams could make a run.
It's like 9-6A.
Battle tested for sure.
In a lot of ways. I mean, it's like once you get in the playoffs, any of those 4 teams, you can't really seed them. They're all, good and ready. And I think that's kind of an underrated aspect of districts like that. Like once you get in, you've basically spent the last 2 or 3 weeks playing in the postseason already. So, I mean, that's a huge part of it also.
It's so many coaches. Nearly every coach I talk to, they tell me the boys and the girls districts in soccer are the 2 best in the entire state. From top to bottom. You have teams like, for instance, Reedy. They're mathematically out of the equation. I just saw them lose to Lone Star last week at the Star. In a lot of other districts, Reedy is a playoff team.
Oh, yeah.
No question about it. It's just the luck of the draw. You're playing against these absolute juggernauts. And speaking of Lone Star, they might have the hottest player in the district, in the area right now, in Eddie Knight. He's only a junior. He plays kind of like a left wing, left forward type deal. He's a left-footed guy. He's had 3 goals and an assist in a blowout win over Reedy last week. He is the fastest guy on the field, and he knows how to score with his left foot. So that, could be whoever draws Lone Star, if they indeed make the playoffs like they should, given their strength of schedule in these final 2 games, that could be a tough draw. A team in Lone Star that has lost the last 2 years in the first round to R.L. Turner and Lake Dallas. So this year could be the year Lone Star gets over that first round hump. So we'll see. But that leads us to our last district over there with the Mesquites.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on all the Mesquites. First, going back up to 6A real quick to talk about 11-6A. There's 2 matches left in the regular season and no playoff berths have been clinched, if that gives you an idea how even this district has been. Rockwall Heath leads the way right now with 22 points, but there's a chance that even they could get caught. After that, you have Longview with 21, Tyler Lee with 19, Mesquite with 18, North Mesquite with 16. So any of those teams can still make it. Mesquite is the defending district champion. They have Kevin Parr as their most consistent scorer, but they've got a lot of guys that can put the ball in the back of the net. They play at Rockwall, coming back from the break, who's in last place with 7 points, but it still has given a lot of teams some troubles. And so that's no guarantee. But I think Mesquite, if they take care of business there, they close out against Longview in a game that could have a playoff berth on the line there. North Mesquite, Heriberto Campuzano is one of the best scorers in the area. He's kind of been rounding into form of late. They have a must-win game coming back against Horn. They had to close against Rockwall Heath in the finale, but that was a 1-0 game in the first meeting. So, excuse me, 2 Mesquite teams still alive. The way it's shaking out, it looks like it's only going to be one of them that moves on. So, we'll know a lot more when they come back on that Tuesday on how those teams respond after spring break. But anything can happen. I mean, that's what this district has been like since day one, and I'm sure that last week is going to offer up all sorts of surprises.
Oh, for sure. Not much happening this week because it's spring break. A lot of teams are off until the end of this week. They won't get back to practicing until later, Friday around there or so. But next week, must watch soccer as district titles and playoff berths will be on the line in all of our districts.
Well, and I was going to say, I know a lot of eyes are going to be on Frisco and those schools as far as the teams that can make a run. Dark horse, West Mesquite out of 13-5A. Okay. They have already clinched the district championship. their first since 2012. I believe their first outright title ever. But they've done it largely without Junior Saavedra, one of the top scorers in the area. He had 14 goals, but he's been banged up of late. So they've been able to run through that district without him. Guys like Carlos Lara and Edgar Lopez have stepped up. Fabian Luna, their outstanding goalkeeper, has 13 shutouts this season. They won their first round match last year and almost beat Centennial in the second round in a game I believe was 3-2, but went down to the wire. So West Mesquite, a team that can make some noise. Botit is headed back to the playoffs as well. I don't think they have quite the star power. They've just been doing it by, they've had some younger guys step up. Leah Lane, Miguel Rosales is a guy that's been a 4-year guy for him. So Botit's going to be something, a team that could go a couple rounds deep, but keep an eye on West Mesquite. This is the team I picked to win district for the year. And they did that, and I think they have the potential to put together a nice run.
West Mesquite regional tournament possibility?
Possibility, yes.
Could be, okay.
Again, they go out east through that. You have to navigate those waters with some unknown opponents. And again, it's people are going to say all roads lead through Frisco in terms of lengthy playoff runs, but West Mesquite proved last year that they could play with those teams, and they're even better this year.
Interesting, and that was a really good Centennial team last year as well. Their playoff loss came against Wakeland in the next round after that. So we'll see if West Mesquite can do it. We'll see if Lake Dallas can keep their hot streak going and well into the playoffs, and we'll see what happens with Frisco ISD. But that'll just about do it for this spring break edition of the Boys Soccer Podcast. That's Taylor Ragland. I'm Brian Murphy. It's Devin Hassan. We'll talk to you next week.